The only person we can count on to have a runner-up, Greg Kelly. Democrats are afraid of Donald Trump. These are the two story. They're trying to drive maggots to attack the country and use that as a false flag that's a real flag to push back on them and blah blah. And by the way, you couldn't pick a more nunty picture of Trump. Jesus Christ. Blah, 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 blah. Yikes. Oh, God. But Greg looks like he's been weeping. I'm not kidding. Look at that. He's red-eyed. And, if it's Junior, we're pretty sure he's stoned. He does cry? Fucking hell.
He really gets under their skin, drives them totally crazy.
Well, he wouldn't fit, though. I think we could all fit under his skin,
Because they're afraid of him.
They're so afraid of him. They can't even take what he's got. He's such a man. He's so macho and so smart. He's got everything, and they've got nothing.
Afraid of the people.
They're afraid of the people. They're afraid of themselves. They're afraid of their shadow. They're afraid of that weird way he folds his neck in half and then shuts the collar around it and then cinches it up. And then when you hang out with him, if he gets a couple of shots at him, he's like, put your finger in it. Go ahead.
This is a man, let's face it, he reinvented politics.
Yeah, well, I would say he retroactively pushed them back to the early 1700s.
So long to become an industry, a profession.
It is a profession. It was like public service or some shit.
Supposed to be a democracy about the people.
Yeah, it was. That's, and I love that. Like, according to Greg Kelly, the last 10 presidents weren't elected until Trump came along, and then we went back to it with Biden, right?
He knows it, and that's why they hate him. And this.
Nah, I think it's just fucked up that he thinks he can grab women by the pussy and cheat banks out of money and cheat the IRS, and he never gets busted for it because he's surrounded himself with human shields at every direction, and I think it's fucking gross.
Phony indictment. It's crazy. I have to tell you, though, well, none of us should be surprised. I mean, we heard this.
No, you've known he was a criminal for years. You just didn't care.
It was coming. He said it was going to happen last week. It was in.
And he's right about everything except this, but
the works. So I'm not surprised. I'm saddened, of course, but.
Of course you are. Do you need a moment? Do you want a whoopee? You want a tissue? What, something? Are you weeping? Do you want a butt plug? What do you need?
I'm immune to it, really.
Yeah, you are. Feelings, you mean?
And I think he is too.
Well, he loves you, Greg. He mentioned you at CPAC. He mentioned you by name.
You know what really?
You're like the son he wishes he never had.
Really got my attention, and why
I don't know.
I'm kind of taking this in stride, because I do believe he will beat this. What happened on August 8th of last year. The FBI raiding Mar-a-Lago. Now,
well, they served a search warrant. They didn't raid the place.
After that, I don't know what can shock. Nothing can shock me, really, from our government after that fiasco that they're still pursuing.
Because they found shit.
Look, you know the details of this case, but I want.
Yeah, I do, but run them back by me again. So something about Shark Week and him having a tiny dick and MILF porn and something. There's a storm, something. I don't know, storm is coming. The QAnon people said the storm is coming. They didn't realize that Stormy, he could never make her come. But enough about the sex life of fucking Ben Shapiro. What?
I want to emphasize, and we'll go into it a little bit later with some.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, do you have crayon drawings? It would help.
I guess. Donald Trump wrote a check with his own money and gave it to his lawyer, who was owed the money. Another party was paid.
Who was owed the money.
There is no victim here.
To another party that was paid. There is no victim here. Except, of course, the voters who apparently would have had a problem with him paying off a porn star. Now, again, I don't even know that that's true. I think he committed a crime he didn't even have to commit. Because at that time, he thought it fucking mattered. But honestly, I think stacked with the Access Hollywood tape, that might have been the last straw. So he buried it with that. But that's debatable. At that point, they were already all in on this scumbag.
And the prosecutors know that. That's why they bent over backwards to come up with this convoluted, will never hold up in court, will never hold up in an appellate court, but maybe you can fool, I don't know, a group of very liberal, very angry Manhattan grand jurors?
Maybe. Apparently. You don't think that there's also, you're not at the least bit concerned that you're talking about two separate acts? She gets paid by Michael Cohen. Trump reimburses him and then hides the money. And since he's funding his campaign, it's a contribution in kind to his own campaign, which is a violation of the law. And that's like 3 or 4 counts. Probably stack them up, maybe 6. But there's word is there's 34. There's obviously other shit. And you don't think you're being walked out onto a fucking plank by this dickhead again? Doesn't it occur to you ever that this isn't gonna just be about this one exchange? Because this motherfucker does this kind of stuff all the goddamn time. And you don't think that because Joey fucking Peanuts, aka Joey Taco Penis, his attorney, said the other day that this is a normal thing that occurs, that he's not going to get asked in court and have to prove or answer to prove his innocence how many times he's paid off women and how much each time. Because that's germane to how often he does it, the timing of it, and how much he paid will matter to whether or not this was a normal activity for him, that he just hid shit from his family, or if it was meant to aid his campaign. And the only way he'll be able to answer that, thanks to his fucking attorney being such a dolt, is to admit how many times he's done it. Now, there's a possibility that I'm the only person who's thought this up, because I have not heard anybody say this or point this out other than myself. Thank you very much. Welcome to House Sparks Mega Worldwide. And so, if anybody sees, if you want to go to Alvin Bragg's Twitter or anybody like that and go, hey, P.S., Trump's attorney says he does this all the time, so you should ask him how many times he's done it so you can tell whether this is a normal payment or this was just for the campaign, because that would be, his innocence is predicated on his statement that this is a normal procedure for him, and the only way he can prove that is by showing just how normal it was, by telling everybody how many, when he does it, and how often, and to whom he has made these payments to. I'm just saying. Oh, thank you, Barry. Thank you so much for the gold. I'm just saying it's a good strategy, and it will make him pissed.
Is that it? All right.
Nope, that's not it. 34 charges, probably more.
So this is why they're salivating right now. They get to write this story. New York Times, NBC, they broke the news this afternoon. And it goes like this. A Manhattan grand jury voted to indict Donald J. Trump on Thursday for his role in paying hush money to a porn star, according to 5 people with knowledge of the matter. Next, a historic development that will shake up the 2024 presidential race and forever mark him as the nation's first former president to face criminal charges. You know, these people, they write these stories sometimes way ahead of time.
Yeah, it's kind of like an obituary. Let me guess. They've already got his written.
They wrote the stories that Hillary Clinton was going to win the election months ahead of time.
Yeah, they kind of write both so they can fill in small details if it changes. Yeah, they're professionals.
Own reporters admit it. So they've had this in the works for a long time, and they are enjoying it.
Well, so, for the record, Trump has had paying people to keep quiet about affairs in the works for a long time too. So
want this, but
Page 6 has been after this shit for a while.
Ultimately, they're going to be saddened because I do believe he will win. It gets juicier for them, at least. He will be fingerprinted. He will be photographed. He may even be handcuffed. They wish. The Secret Service not.
Well, I mean, I don't know what they're into, and I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum.
Let that happen. This all may not happen, by the way. I'll get to that in a second. And the former president of the United States of
that was an edit.
America will be read the standard Miranda warning. He will be told that he has the right to remain silent and the right to an attorney. Oh, and that makes them so happy that I'll have to go through this process. Number one, I'm going to have to, this is not official yet. It's not.
Yeah, it is. That's what an indictment means. It's official.
Anything can happen. So
Yes, anything could happen. He could be struck by lightning while golfing and yelling rat farts at the sky. He could, he's got a plane. He could just run.
Let's see what does happen. But
I agree. Let's see what does happen. Let's film it. Let's photograph it. Let's, at every step of the way, it's a historic moment. The public has a right to know. And he's a proud loudmouth, so I'm sure he wants every opportunity for people to see him in court and being walked into court, the entire thing. He wants to monetize the whole motherfucker.
I want to tell you this.
Okay, tell me this.
On this day in history, it's March 30th, right?
Sure.
42 years ago today, they tried another political assassination, a literal assassination of Ronald Reagan. On this day in 1981, the assassination attempt, John Hinckley. And what happened? What happened after that? You know, he almost died that day. It was very, very serious. But he came back. He came back stronger, more beloved, and went on to win 49 states 3 years later.
Yeah, but that was after a psycho shot him. That's... The psycho didn't shoot him because he was fucking Jodie Foster. Reagan wasn't having an affair with Jodie Foster, and Hinckley got pissed about it. Why the shit do you think this is... Wait a minute. Why is he showing a black dude with a gun being held? What a weird freeze frame.
Isn't that interesting? Laura Trump, daughter-in-law of the president, will be with us in a little bit. I want to tell her.
Great. I'm sure she'll
about this
great
because
story.
I want her entire family to know. I think that's a fascinating little tidbit.
Ew. No. Why is that a fascinating little tidbit? One person was left in a wheelchair forever. Another one died, and Reagan almost died. You know, the same day your dad, the indictment came down, Ronald Reagan was, there was an attempt on his life. Isn't that weird? It's almost like the Illuminati wants you dead. Anyways, can you pass the ketchup?
The man who brought this indictment, Alvin Bragg, this is quite a character. He does not believe in the rule of law. He is a Soros-backed crazy person.
He's a crazy person. He's just, most of the time he spends his time in the streets masturbating in public. He's often seen in a chicken suit in Central Park.
In my opinion.
He scales, in my opinion. Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I take it back. I guess not.
What kind of law enforcement officer would say on his first day in office that resisting arrest is now, well, not a crime? You won't go to jail for it. What does that do? It puts cops in danger. It puts society at risk. It's crazy. Also on his first day, he legalized stealing from the subway system. You don't have to pay your fare anymore. Let's see.
No, they just didn't process it, largely because they were still dealing with COVID. So they were letting a bunch of like smaller end stuff slide until everybody got back on their feet. Now it's not. Source. What is this? Alvin Bragg. Day one memo. This is the source, the Alvin Bragg Day one memo. Here you go. Alvin, Bragg, Day one memo. Day one letter policies, Alvin Bragg. Memos had to change. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Growing up in Harlan in the 1980s, saw every side of the criminal justice system. From young, age 4 to 21, had a gun pointed at me 6 times, 3 by police officers, 3 by people who were not police officers. I had a knife by my neck, a semi-automatic gun to my head, and a homicide victim on my doorstep. In my adult life, I posted bail for family, answered the knock of the warrant squad on my door in the early morning, and watched the challenges of a loved one who was living with me after returning from incarceration. Late last year, during a stretch of multiple shootings to 3 blocks of my house, I had perhaps the most sobering experience of my life, seeing through the eyes of my children the aftermath of a shooting directly in front of our home as we walked together past yellow crime scene tape, seemingly countless shell casings and a gun just to get home. In large part because of these experiences, I have dedicated my career to inextricably linked goals of safety and fairness. This memo sets out charging, bail, plea, and sentencing policies that will advance both goals. Data and my personal experiences show that reserving incarceration for matters involving significant harm will make us safer. Invest more in diversion and alternatives to our incarceration. Well-designed initiatives that support and stabilize people, particularly individuals in crisis and youth, can conserve resources. reduce pretrial incarceration, particularly given the ongoing crisis at Rikers. We must reserve pretrial detention for very serious cases. Data show that the overwhelming majority of those released pretrial do not commit a violent crime while at liberty. Studies show that even 3 days in jail can lead to a loss of housing, employment, and strained family connections, and increase the likelihood of failure to appear in court. Studies also indicate that incarceration in and of itself can create public safety risks. By the way, I would argue that a lot of that is lying through statistics, but I understand where he's going, and I think it's a good thing that he's attempting to do this. Focus on accountability, not sentence length. Research clear that after a certain length, longer sentences do not deter crime or result in greater community safety. Further, because survivors and victims of crime often want more than the binary choice between incarceration and no incarceration, we will expand our use of restorative justice programming, which is like halfway houses and education and shit like that. Limit youth and adult court, good thing. Actively support those re-entering. Charging. Office will not prosecute the following charges unless part of an accusatory instrumental containing at least one felony count. Marijuana misdemeanors. Act of refusing to pay the fare for public transport under theft of services. Unless they bust them for that and assault and something else. They're not just going to bust fucking kids for hopping the thing because it's a waste of time. That's what they're doing. Trespass. Unless the trespass is a family offense pursuant accompanies any charge of stalking in the fourth degree under PL or is improved by an ECAB supervisor. Aggravated unlicensed operation. Note that any vehicular collision resulting in any physical injury should be pursued as an act of reckless driving, reckless endangerment, or negligent or reckless assault, failure to yield, or any other applicable statute. This policy addresses only criminalization of failure to pay fines and does not address the criminalization of dangerous driving. So, again, any violation of traffic infraction other than non-criminal offense not accompanied by a misdemeanor or felony. Resisting arrest, except for the act of resisting arrest for any crime not included on this declination list, which would include, like, if you're resisting arrest because they believe you're engaged in assault or a violent crime or you have a weapon or any of that stuff. But if you fuck off because you've been standing on a corner and you're being, like, they're not going to bother with you. Again, if you're engaged in or a suspect in a crime that's violent, they're still going to go after you. This is just bullshit. Okay, so anyways, this is him trying to do something fair and
attempted assault. If it's only attempted assault, you don't have to go to jail for that. The guy who
no jail for attempted assault. See, obstructing government, prostitution, supervisory approval required to prosecute patronizing a person or prostitution under that. This does not include any felonies or coercive practices. Okay, so that's the other thing. Prostitution, they're not going to charge anybody for prostitution in New York. Misdemeanor, which should make Greg feel better, I think. Misdemeanor charges for desk appearance ticket is required by law and shall be offered diversion. Diversion is defined. Okay, so appearance tickets will, they're more than likely not going to look to sentence you to jail. Consistent with past policies, those arrests and offered diversion will be permitted to consult with an attorney regarding their options. If the person accepted diversion, in a case of which desk appearance offered by the following offenses shall be charged as follows. An act shall be charged under PL if it occurs on commercial setting, should be charged under PL if the force or threat of force or of force consists of displaying a dangerous instrument or similar behavior but does not create a genuine risk of physical harm. Could be charged. Possession of a non-firearm weapon under penal law shall not be charged unless a lesser included offense shall be charged instead. Residential burglaries, an act involving theft of property from a storage area or other portion of dwelling is not accessible to a living area that could be charged under PL. And so again, diversion. They're not gonna charge them as a automatically that the penalty phase shall be directed towards them ending up in jail, especially if they're like homeless and sleeping in a fucking garage overnight. That kind of shit. Commercial burglaries. An act involving theft of property from a commercial establishment can be charged under PL 140.252. Because such establishment is technically part of a larger structure that contains dwellings, shall only be charged under 140.20. Drug cases. Reasonable view of evidence indicating that a person arrested for the sale of controlled substances is acting as a low-level agent of a seller, and they'll be charged with that. And no felonies, therefore, offered diversion. So yeah, like kids, basically minors selling drugs. Pretrial detention. I don't know where the assault thing came from. Attempted assault when released, but dispositions, rule accepted. Yeah, I don't know where they're not charging assault. Attempted assault, no jail. Okay, so they're attempted assault, they're going for diversion is what he's saying. That's where they're going with no jail. They're saying we're going to try and get you into like anger management classes and that kind of stuff. If you actually put hands on someone, you attempted to assault them. I don't know how that, if you're like banging on their car and that's the attempted assault part, but you didn't actually assault them, you'll get diversionary
Pour up
stuff.
a McDonald's with an axe, you're out of jail 3 hours later. This is the kind of guy the district attorney is.
Nope. No, see what he did right there? This guy would not qualify.
3 hours.
I said, okay, so there he is with the axe, and he's smashing up the McDonald's.
This is the kind of guy the district.
There you go. See right there? See what that guy did? That's assault. That's not attempted assault. That's assault.
Attorney is. This is crazy, crazy stuff. This is communist stuff. This is un-American.
This is crazy, crazy commie stuff. That's it. That's the crazy, crazy commie stuff. And that's where they cut him off. All right, pretty close. I mean, he's holding it together.